Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And again, it is now almost officially, by the time this video comes out, it will be the spooky month of October. Why do I call it the spooky month? It's the time of the year when it is said that the veil between the seen world and the unseen world is the thinnest. So it's a great time to go on ghost hunts. It's a great time to investigate weird and creepy ghost related things. And really, there's a lot of moon energy, symbolic moon energy in this time. But the video last week about the Donner Party and the Wendigo had me thinking about other people that have been possessed throughout history. And one person came to mind. I'm a Washington State resident, so you probably know by the thumbnail that I am talking about Ted Bundy. And if I look down, I have some notes here. I've been trying to go off script, free of script, to just be more authentic. So I do have some notes so I don't screw things up. You know, sometimes details will get messed up in my head. So Ted Bundy, his original name was not Ted Bundy, and I didn't write down his original name, but he actually went to college in Tacoma at UW Tacoma. And if you don't know Ted Bundy, he's a well-known serial killer. He was convicted and confessed to about 30 murders, but it is suspected that he did up to 100 murders. So where did the name Ted Bundy come from? Well, Ted Bundy never really knew his father, and he adopted the name Ted Bundy sometime in his teens. And it's really interesting to me. Ted Bundy, or Bundy, the Bundy name is one of the Illuminati family names. And if you're not familiar with the Illuminati, it's basically a theory that kind of this satanic secret society controls most of the world. And I mean, there is some evidence that supports this, and it's 13 families. And the Bundy family is one of them, and you can look that up. So I find that connection really weird, that he changed his name and he never knew his father, and maybe his father was one of the Bundys, and maybe his mom was involved with some sort of satanic ritual where she got pregnant. So how did he come to be potentially possessed? Well, in these ceremonies, they'll call on different spirits and try to commune with these spirits. And if you're messing around with evil spirits, sometimes they can gain control of your body and make you do things that you might not normally do. And there is some evidence of this. Ted Bundy was known, at least around here, and I couldn't find any reputable sources, I'll say that, but there's stuff on the internet that said he was involved in all sorts of satanic rituals all over Washington State. And he might have been killing people at a very early age. And some of the bodies were mutilated in a rather ceremonial-esque way, as in he would like cut off their heads a lot and do some other kind of satanic-esque rituals to these bodies. And you know what's interesting is he also worked for a Rockefeller on his campaign trail. The Rockefellers, they're another Illuminati family, and again, just a lot of connections to that Illuminati, known for their satanic stuff. And one of his first known victims was a college student at Evergreen College, and she actually was majoring in alchemy and I Ching divination, which is like a Chinese style. It's sort of like horoscopes, but a little more spiritual. But the interesting thing about alchemy is it focuses on transmutation. So if you don't know what transmutation is, it's basically when you take one thing and make it into something else. And a lot of times it's for the positive, like you want to transmutate into a higher person. And so they use the analogy or the symbolism of lead transforming to gold, but also there's a reverse side where you can become from a normal person to kind of a demonic type person. And Ted Bundy himself, in various interviews, so he was very smart, very intelligent person. If you met him, you would not know he was a serial killer. But he described when he had to kill, like something inside of him would build up and would just keep building and building and building, like pressure, until eventually he couldn't control it, almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. And when that being come out, he called it, he had a couple different names for it. He called it the entity and he called it the force. So when this being or entity just had built up inside of him, he wasn't in control of his body. He said it was like this other being took over, and he could see what was going on and he would remember it, but he couldn't control himself. And so, that pretty much describes a possession to me. And what's interesting about that, he said it happened a lot when he would consume drugs and alcohol and in times of stress. So again, in that last video, I was talking about different drugs open you up to demonic possession. Well, here's some more proof of that. His lawyer actually provided another interesting testimonial. So he was talking to Ted, trying to prepare his defense, and he was trying to go for like a crazy defense. And his lawyer's like, well, I need to see this entity take over. And so he kind of provoked this entity inside Ted into coming out. And the lawyer said Ted's face became distorted and like almost like monstrous. And so if you're familiar with possessions, that's a common trope, that their face will become distorted. And then also, and I find this interesting, he said there was a really foul stench that came from like deep within Ted. Like his breath, just a really foul stench, got really smelly, and out of his pores got smelly. And he said it was just like a really disgusting smell, hard to describe. Which, going back to the Sasquatch video I made a couple videos back, that's one of the signs that there's a Sasquatch in the area, is people say they smell this really strong stench. And they call it like almost like rotting garbage that's been left out in the sun for too long. And if you haven't smelt it, it's hard to describe. It's just so rancid. So, Ted Bundy, was he possessed? I don't know, but I would say that there is some strong evidence that, he was just kind of a normal dude. He got involved in the occult, and this being took control of him. And back to Washington, I'll say this: popular hiking spot, Tiger Mountain. It's right outside, it's in between Tacoma and Seattle. It's a popular hiking spot. And growing up, I heard that's one of the places where Ted Bundy did a lot of these rituals out in the woods, ritualistic killing, ritualistic ceremonies. And now people just hike there like crazy. And he had supposedly tons of victims. A lot of his victims went missing during the waning moon. So the waning moon is right after the full moon, and it's kind of it represents death. So the first part of the moon cycle is life and rebirth, and then the full moon is the moon is kind of like has woman energy, and the full moon is a fully mature woman. And then after that, as the moon wanes, it becomes an old woman until there's no moon at all. And then it symbolizes death. So that's really interesting that he committed a lot of these crimes during that time. They also found some stick stuff, and they call that, it was like sticks making a square, and they call that a carrier of spirits thing in witchcraft. And basically it's just like a power symbol, like he was trying to trap their spirits in there. And they're not sure how many people Ted Bundy killed. And he ended up dying in prison, and probably for the best. But let me know what you think. Was Ted Bundy possessed? Was he just a crazy person? Is there something to demonic possession? And we'll see you guys next week. I did get some firsthand material about some Sasquatch stuff, but it is the spooky month. Maybe next week I'll talk about the unseen world and what I think on that. And I'll see you guys next time.